Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to Question Time Live, episode 120. So I didn't know if I was going to make it in this evening because we've had a shipment. Can you believe that? Already September. And we've had a shipment in. What a shipment it was as well. The very first batch of my Miss Toyota offspring bred by myself in Japan have landed. Let's say in UK waters, UK. So I don't want to say UK waters in case someone's watching and shits their pants, but my waters here in England. And amongst some other fantastic Tosai as well from NND and a stunning batch of DK Shiro. So hopefully by now you've seen all those on the videos. But yeah, absolutely. And the arrival. Bearing in mind, this is a summer shipment. I know it don't feel like summer here in the UK right now, but over there, I mean, bearing in mind when I left, we were between 35 and 39 degrees. Crazy, crazy stuff. So the guys have put such an immense amount of work into making sure all the prep was done to a really, really high standard. And as a result, we've had over 2,000 fish arrive today and not even one looking like it was struggling. Hats off to the guys. They've done amazing. So, yeah, jet lag's still kicking me ass a bit. Sleep's not been too bad, but Jesus, when I do go, I'm absolutely unconscious. And just a bit later in daylight now, start flagging a bit. It's weird, but we keep busy and keep at it, and it kind of helps push it through a little bit. So yeah, before I get stuck into anything else, please, as always, guys, question time. We need questions for it. I will always find something to ramble about, but your input is always needed. And I think the last episode I did was and I've done it on this look by mistake. I've just seen that actually. The title's all wrong. I wonder if I can edit that now. I'll probably end up cutting stream off. No, I can't. Bacterial outbreak special. This one is not the bacterial outbreak special. We did that on the last one. So this is just a generic episode. Like I say, need fire them questions in, guys. Anything we want, koi related, mind, and we'll get stuck into it. Other than that, now, so the Japan trip, probably a quick summary on that. My goodness, it was amazing to have that time out there with my daughter, Harriet. Really, really, nice time. Nice for her to experience it as Arthur did as well. And, she, as ever, charmed absolutely everybody that she came into contact with as well. Absolute little star. And I think the best video with her is yet to come because she actually took the phone off me and did some of her own recording on the next and final episode from that trip as well, which is pretty cool. But yeah, from a fish perspective, awesome. So we've got the NND Sankey, that a batch of those has just arrived. That deal I did on the trip before this one. My goodness, they're so impressive. So there's still 69 of them gone back into the pond. And then, of course, the selection on my shower. And I think, as I kind of said in the video, it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster because I was, even with the experience I've got with fish of that size, there was a few frustrations crept in. And these are just, I should imagine what every breeder out there has. It was when I was finding fish like, yes, that's the one, and I flipped it over and we've got, sort of like a full red belly, which really for the level I'm talking and the investment you're going to make in that fish devalues it too much. And it was tough, but by the end of it, and certainly on reflecting since and really getting me clocked around the numbers and what I've actually got within those numbers that I wouldn't normally have, I'm delighted. And I just can't wait to start doing more and more and more of it, to be honest, because, I'm hooked. I'm absolutely hooked. I think you've gathered by now that the whole thing here is, me and Tosai. It's my thing. It's what I've done from the very beginning. It's the real depth and truest understanding. It could be so easy when you get this wrong, so easy just to literally physically throw your best fish away if you don't know what you're looking at. And when you're looking at them in these selections, the past two selections I've done, they are nothing like they're really going to look whatsoever. You really are looking around the edges. And if you try to analyze these and get too technical, you are just literally going to be getting rid of probably of most of them, in all honesty. The subtles in the highest level ones, if I show you obviously between the absolute top and the absolute bottom end, I think the difference is huge. It's the stuff all in between where it gets really, really difficult, because some of these things just need time, but you're balancing the natural resources so much when it's that middle ground where ultimately you invest in, and there's a chance that a percentage of that middle ground might actually move the way up, and a percentage obviously end up going the other way or staying sort of somewhere in the middle as well. And this, I've got to admire them for the discipline. Fujo actually made me laugh, because at one point when I was sorting through, he just, "Oh, Ricky, you're very greedy." Made me laugh. And I think he was right. The discipline that those guys have is amazing. But I think for me, that discipline will come more when there's more spawnings being conducted and more volume of fish. I think I'm a bit too heavily invested in this one batch right now to have that level of kibishi strictness that they use, or have generally. And we'll find our balance with it. I think a big bit on the fish that we've just shipped back, as we've looked at them, are some breeders would be keeping that stuff. This is the big thing as well. I think, there's certain breeders out there would 100% be keeping what I've just shipped back. In NND's case, they would have got rid of it, because they just don't want those fish around it taking up the system. And as I'm delving more into the stuff out there, it's the resources that are the real problem. Concrete pond resources, mud pond resources, you name it. And that's why they only want to focus on the higher level. But as it really, really shoves up. Those costs are all the same, the kind of fixed costs. And then all of a sudden you're just dividing it over a smaller amount of fish. And that's where the cost comes from. And interestingly, last night I actually auctioned the first of my top piece. I had an incredible Tancho shower in that batch, and we auctioned it off. And yes, it fetched an absolutely fantastic price. But I think this is good for you guys to see, because in all reality, that top percentage, whether it end up being 10 or 15 fish, whatever it is, that is the kind of absolute minimum money that they need to be commanding. Hopefully some above and beyond it. It's the above and beyond that obviously starts allowing you the revenues to reinvest in infrastructure and new parent fish and stuff like that. But with the economics of all the stuff that goes beneath it, and all the costs, certainly by the time those fish get harvested and kept as well and raised further, it all just keeps bumping up. So this whole thing really relies on those top fish getting the values. And that's where some smaller breeders struggle, because they don't kind of have the brand clout behind them either to get the values for those fish that they need to. And it kind of gets them stuck in a little bit of a rut. So very interesting, but I hope it's also provided more of an insight for you guys as to what really goes on behind all the scenes, and what actually makes up, the economics of the price of the koi that you see, what actually goes into it as well, and how much is literally just thrown away to keep that real high base level. Certainly a lot of these higher end breeders. And it's interesting. I get a lot of the questions that I get. I completely understand it, because in essence, I think to a Western mindset also probably doesn't make sense. For me also as a business person, ultimately from farming, if there is money to be made on waste product, then it absolutely generally makes sense to capitalize on it. But those fish aren't really waste product. At the last pull, there was a lot of that. You just didn't want those fish around. But these are not really that. Like I say, at certain breeders in Japan, this would be a level that they would 100% be keeping, because they make those volume batches of fish that do serve a place in the market. And I just never want to get carried away and just focus on that one end, because it's very, very, very limited, and ultimately cuts a lot of people out. And I like to interact and enjoy this with as many people as I can. So yeah, that's that one really. That's my take on where all that's at. I can see a few questions in, so I will make a start on those. But for now, keep firing them in, guys, and I will get stuck into these. I don't think there's anything else. What I'm going to do as well, just for any guy watching, we've got one of the prize competition draws to do. I've just got behind with the shipment and everything that we've had and all the madness since I've got back. So I am going to get that done first thing in the morning and get it into the WhatsApp group. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that one. Right, let's see what we've got. I'll work through the chat in order. She did have a great time. Thank you, Mickey. Yes, it was an amazing to see on that one, David. It really was. Here we go. First one coming up. Tom, what's your thoughts on heating all winter? Pros and cons, best temp to stay at roughly. So I am sure, Tom, there might be something in depth on the channel you can dive into on this. Somebody watching might be able to point you to one of the videos for sure. However, I think my thoughts on this is you ultimately need to decide where your collection's at and what you want to achieve from the collection over winter. So if you feel like they've already had a very good summer, you might want to wind things down a little bit. The general advice that I give is to stay out of no man's land. So no man's land for me is between 12 and 18 degrees. It's just honestly the most pointless temperature range to be in, and one where you can actually end up creating yourself some problems if you're not careful. So at 18, what you're going to be able to do is really get them in a really high condition. Wind them down. You don't want them on any growth food. Something like Saki Balance is the food you would be on, or if you really want to treat them, Saki Pure White, anything along them lines. And you can keep a moderate amount of food going in. You're going to maintain the bacteria levels in the system really well. And yeah, just generally it'd be a good time for getting real top condition, slime coat coloration, the whole thing. Now, if you want to ease back off of that, I would be dropping straight down to 12. Feed for me would be bare minimum, probably once a day at most. Still on something like Saki Balance, because with the small amount you're going to be putting in, it's going to make no difference. It's not like it's growth food or anything like that. You filter, you will lose a lot of filter activity. So you want to keep that level low, but keep it consistent. What you don't want to do is go from feeding a scoop one day and then doubling it up the next day, because your filter's not going to bounce and keep up with that so well. And then, to be honest, it's anything below sort of 12 degrees down to around 7 or 8, you'll keep them looking fantastic. If you need to cut some costs down, you can keep them in that range. Absolutely fantastic. It's just everything else in between. I don't understand why people do it, because what you're also doing is you've got kind of immune response not in a great place, but it's a good temperature range for parasite activity and everything along that line. So I don't tend to like it there. It's for me, it's one or the other. Decide what you're doing, pick one and go with it. So hope that helps without diving too much. And like I say, I think if you troll the channel, there might even be in the secrets of koi keeping or something just dedicated to heating on there that really dives in for that. But you'll pretty much find me saying exactly the same thing. Growth wise, obviously, if you feel like you've not had the best of summers and you want to recover some growth, you can keep it at the summer temperatures and keep it all going. The thing is, if you've had a good summer and your fish are kind of 2 years and above, don't just push it through and keep them growing kind of, nearly 12 months out of the year, because all you're going to do is ultimately going to age them faster. You're probably going to deteriorate the skin quality faster. They need some degree of rest period. For me, that rest period is generally coming down to 18 and just really easing back on the food and moving more to a conditioning phase, really pulling the water condition up to the highest standards and letting them enjoy that rest. Thank you very much, Mike. You've got a chance, Andy. So yes, I do have. I'm actually going to be auctioning in the group 10 pieces. I selected. You've probably seen that in the video, guys. 10 pieces of Sankey from that pond that are still growing out there with my other best ones. So that's going to be epic. And they're going to fly because they're basically, from me doing that selection, got like 6 weeks now with just 69 fish in that whole mud pond being blasted with food. So yeah, stand by for that one. Yes, breeding is addictive, but yes, you do need plenty of space. Evening, Ricky. Congrats on the results, Miss Toyota. Biggest question of them all: when can I get my hands on one of them? Others that have been shipped back to you. Stay tuned, Chris. Stay tuned, mate. Like I say, we've actually sold quite a lot of that batch to some of our wholesale customers, but I have retained some that I'll be putting out. Not forgetting, I'm not keen to let them all actually physically leave the place because I want to see how that batch is going to perform here. However, that might change knowing that I've technically got 200 still out there, and the likelihood is that the majority of them, probably bar, say, 10 to 15 tops, are all going to end up back here as well. So there's still a chance for that. Stand by, mate. Yes, Terry, as I've literally just covered, mate, there's, I think, is it 600 pretty much come back, 570 something today. Madness, absolute madness. Yes, Mark. Any chance you ever doing a Japanese tour for some of your customers? Yes, David, to be honest, it's something, as we do, we've always got stuff burning and looking in the background. We, in all honesty, are looking at a way it can be done. I can't physically commit my time to doing that for a week, 2 week, 3 week period, whatever it is. There's too much needs to be done, and a lot of important stuff in farming operations and buying operations. So I think with the team we've got around, certainly Rie in Japan, we're looking at what we can build out, but also build out as an experience and what that would look like and cost, because I think we don't just want to be dragging somebody around fish farms every day, intensively looking at fish and missing out on so much of what the place has to offer. If that's what you want, obviously, as an intense buy-in trip, then yep, fantastic. That's not the angle we're sort of looking at, because I sort of see, I've mentioned it a few times, I'm into my food myself. I think the place offers a lot culturally to look at. There's some great sightseeing to take in, but also a lot of the food. And it's something I take a lot of time, visit a lot of my favorite restaurants, many of which are local ones, where a lot of foreign people typically won't go because of ordering and things like that, or even actually finding them. So I think something where all that can be incorporated would be cool. But again, it's just looking at viability and what we can actually do. So yeah, being explored. But as ever, I don't like to launch anything or do anything unless I know we can do it to the standards that I like to keep things at. Chip, really appreciate your channel over across the pond. Thanks. Absolute pleasure, Chip. Just like to say how good my Ginrin Komori is. Awesome little koi. That was a good one, that 80 though. I mean, to be fair, you wait and see some weapons I've got to pull out of my pond there soon. But that one, if it had been keeping up with my pack a bit better, there's no way I would have let that one go. My question: if you're adding clay on a regular basis, can you also add salt if needed? Absolutely fine. There's no conflict of anything there. Obviously, neither are chemicals. There's no reaction or anything like that. All I would say is never massively change the environment too much all at once. So, don't go piling it all in together. Not that it would technically do anything. It'll just create a lot of change at one time. And we do know that koi aren't a massive fan of that. Hi, Ricky. Your episode on bacterial infections has helped me save my koi. Thank you. Absolute pleasure. My question is, what's the best way to build up the beneficial bacteria after following the treatment protocol? It's anything along the lines of like Columbo PSB bacteria is fantastic. Some of the lactobacterias are all very good. It's just anything that's basically got the positive groups of bacteria in, just getting that into the water to build it back up, but also obviously just creating, I know that's hard to say, but you've hopefully, because you've stopped it, tipped things back in the favor of the good bacteria. So nurturing the environment, keeping the not letting your water parameters get out of skew, keeping a decent KH level in there. The use of a clay is really good as a flocculant because that can help clear out particles that bad bacteria will often feed on. So it's just getting back to cultivating that environment that will ultimately create an environment for good bacteria to thrive. I don't like the thought of having a pond hooked on any form of additives because it's all cost. I would rather be spending that money and putting it towards heating, certainly over the summer heating, or putting it towards top food like sake akari. That's exactly how I would utilize that budget, because ultimately, if you can create the right conditions, this is where your incoming mains water, that will affect bacteria. If you're running through and you're getting chloramines traced in the pond, that's really not going to help cultivate that right environment. Metals, you name it. Hence why my culture of not wanting to add too much, chemical usage to a bare minimum, everything like that is where you want to be. And then naturally, in the end, the pond will get to the right place. But in the meantime of that, I think it also helps some of these additives just with your own confidence that you're doing something to help it. But my absolute favorite one of them all is Colombo Fresh PSB. That is a product that over the years, as I sold it a long time ago, was one of those that I knew, regardless of what pond it was being used in, a difference would be noticed because it's a cleaning bacteria. It goes in, it basically cleans up a lot of bad bacteria as well. It can help with ammonia load. It's very, very good. And there's not anybody I know of who's used that product and not noticed a difference. Even if you've got really good, healthy water, it tends to put a real sparkle and a shine on it as well. Evening, Paul. Michael, question. My last filter chamber has only a 40 watt amalgam UV. If I added an air stone in there, would the bubbles affect points of UV? To be honest, Michael, I can't see why it wouldn't. I'm no expert in that field. But so long as it's shining onto the water, mate, I don't think there's any reason why that would have any impact whatsoever. Hi, Ricky, food question. How do you judge the supplement food needed for your fry koi pond in Japan? That is a load of witchcraft and wizardry, Paul, is where that one's at. No, in all seriousness, so it tends to be it's once to twice a day feeding, and it's always fed on the perimeter of the pond. So there'll be a general observation on feeding behavior for a start, and then just general stuff that obviously if they come to the second feed in the day and there was still food there, they'd reduce it down, or likewise the second feed in the morning and things like that. And just trying to visually catch the fish. You can do, the water's so warm, you chuck a bit of food in, they're all there generally in the bank of the pond going absolutely nuts. So you can just kind of roughly gauge there from how the fish are doing as well. And that's a breeder, a lot of it, as I kind of point to a lot, becomes instinct as well, just gauging everything that's going on. If they're getting water condition, they'll look at as well. And if they're getting good water feed to the pond, they'll be confident to feed a bit more. But the very basic mechanism with that will just be visually gauging the patches of food that are all dumped along to make sure that they're consumed. I've seen a lot of breeders do use fry feeders. I think that would be a route when I'm there myself potentially doing this is probably the route I would go down, because it's more in line with my strategy. And then again, it's just observing behavior. You can use pond turbidity. They tend to use that with the bigger fish as well, but obviously because they move a lot more soil in the bottom. In the cases where they're obviously feeding away, it's crazy to say the water looks muddy. It's a fucking mud pond. But when you're not feeding enough manually, naturally the koi will root more. And when they're rummaging in the base, you can see the plumes of mud. There's a lot of suspended mud in the water. And that's when naturally with the bigger fish, they'll adjust the feeder settings until hopefully that calms down a little bit. It was very much appreciated last week's bacterial episode when fin rot eats most of an anal or ventral fins down to the bone. Can these fully grow back now that the underlying issues are resolved? So sometimes if bone is broken, you will get some regrowth, It's generally if the infection gets right to the base of the fin and eats it away there, more often than not, you are done at that point, unfortunately. Yes, we're a bit slow on the video front, Dave, unfortunately. We're since Aaron's gone, we're finding it a bit difficult keeping the channel flowing and everything at the rate I wanted. So I am actively, very actively recruiting. Had some fantastic CVs drop through, and hopefully I'll be on to interviewing next week. And at some point, we'll get things restored properly, because it's very hard for me to try and get any of that done. It's shooting bits in too bad. It's when it comes to any kind of edit. So I want to put the effort in with that one. I could just shoot it live like this and post it after, but I'd rather sit tight and wait, because I think it's going to be an important one. Hi Ricky, backy shower. Would you ever clean these? Yes, they need some. Mine gunges up every 3 months or so off the skimmer. Yeah, I mean, it's a biological media in there, so one of the better ways can be to either rinse it down with pond water, or literally, just if you can pump pond water through at a fast rate, knock it all off and knock it back through. We'll let your filter clean it up. That'll absolutely work. So yeah, but needs to be done. You can't just let it suffocate with being gunked up with shit. My pleasure, Tom. Karashigoi are mental. So I did have a little sneaky look in there the other day, and I do have fish touching 50 centimeters now. It is bonkers. They are, the volume still building. They're still in the 1,200 gallon pond. I don't know where we're actually going to end up with it, because I think I said the plan was sort of into October, but I think that there's a good chance that we might get some hitting kind of sort of 52-ish cm. I might even go to end of October yet. Still, let's wait and see. I want to see how far we can truly take them. Obviously, there's a few customers fish Daz, as you well know, in there, mate, and I don't know when we're scheduled to pull them out. That might be the next time we get a bit of intervention, but it's just been a crazy result. Hi Ricky, I'm currently at pond build planning stage and wondered how many bottom drains you would recommend on a pond with dimensions of 10 meters long, so that's 33 feet thereabouts in it, 5.5, 15 wide and 1.8 deep. I think the bigger question to this is really depending on how you're going to build that system out, what flow rates you need. I think this is the biggest thing. I could just say you need 2, 3, 4. You can just throw any number out in all reality, but you need to start at the top here. How are you going to use this pond? That's going to be a fairly big pond with a really decent water volume. So, are you wanting to heavily stock this, heavily feed this, have it heated in summer? Then you start by ultimately designing the biological side of the filter, knowing what your potential food load could handle, what turnover rates you want to achieve, because there's a limit to how much water you can pull through a 4-inch pipe. I've also learned, I had a phenomenal chat with one of the guys at Oaza recently, and learning about how flow rates in 4-inch pipes actually drastically alter or what you can physically rely on through a 4-inch pipe actually in a drum system, because of the movements of waters. Honestly blew my mind. And so I think from that, realistically, you've got to look, because I'm actually working, he's a friend of mine, fellow Man United fan who goes to matches with me, so he's a very great human being, being a United fan. And there's 100,000 litre pond that's got 4 bottom drains in it, right? It's an absolute beast. So I was looking at that and going, right, well, it'd be ideal to maybe, because he likes to have it generally heavily stocked, chucking, not crazy, not my kind of feeding in, because you kind of compromise with the stock in there. He likes to get the fish in bigger anyway, and kind of maintain and bring them on a bit slower, all the rest of it from there. So at the 100,000 litres, you actually can't achieve that just with 4 bottom drains, because many people, I mean, on average, they quote around 18,000 litres. So you're already screwed kind of at that. But it doesn't need to be. I mean, bigger ponds don't need to be turned over at that volume generally. Once every 2 hours will be sufficient. But that is about the limit of what can pull through them 4 drains anyway. And then what ours is bringing that spec down to, based on their data of these what kind of water movement patterns and flow rates through 4-inch pipes, to keep everything running really, really well and properly, is a lot lower. So I know I've kind of gone off topic there, but it's not just a straightforward answer. You ultimately need to decide on those factors of what's the biological performance, what turnover rates do I want to achieve, because that's going to tell you how many outlets you need from the pond, whether it be bottom drains or mid-water feeds, anything like that. So that's the best advice I can give you now, is probably think of that top level stuff a bit more and then just work it backwards from there, because ultimately that is going to be your governing factor. It's no good just putting 4 drains in. If you say tot up there, you've got 4 lots of 18,000 litres to pull through maximum. Ours is taking that down roughly to 12,000 litres, which is a huge difference there in combined potential turnover rate. So start at the top, work your way back, and I think ultimately you will find your answers there from that one. Eric, if you had hard water GH in the lower 200s, how does this affect the shimmer? Is it purely genetic? How does this affect the development of shimmers, or is it purely genetic? Yeah, again, I still don't buy into all this around hard, soft. The actual makeup of the water, I believe there's elements within the water that if one of them skewed massively might impact it more. But in reality, you know, different benny types are more subjective to shimmies. Water, generally how it's maintained, UV exposure. I think there's a whole list of stuff that come, and you might actually find that, you know, with certain bloodlines in your water, you might have problems and others that you won't. So yeah, for me, it's more down to the genetics and benny type than it is just water hardness. Because we say that around Sume. I've said it many a times before. I've got clients with very soft water who cannot keep a Shisui or an Iowa cab clean. They just go black into shit within no time. My water here is very kind of neutral. Everything's sat in the middle, and I can keep Shisuis looking fantastic for as long as I want to generally. So I just think many things prove the point, and seeing what kind of light does to anything black as well is huge. So many layers to that one, Gregory. I'm with you on your thoughts, Ari. Japan and the full experience. Yes. Susan's with us. How you doing? Evening, Terence. Ricky, if you scrape 4 fish and only found 1 gill fluke, would you treat in the case of gill flukes? Absolutely, because you never truly know the full extent from your scrape. So yes, I'd be getting on that one. Alex, my daughter Mila 10 was inspired by Harriet working hard in the mud pond. She's desperate to know what Hattie had to eat from 7-Eleven. What her favourite Japanese food was. Awesome. You'd have to ask her, to be honest. That's one thing I admired. She got absolutely stuck in. She really enjoyed a small taste of my katsu curry at a particular place. However, I didn't gauge how spicy it actually was, because I'm pretty good with the hot stuff. And when she actually had it herself, it very quickly got on top of her, bless her. But she enjoyed that. She had karage, which is the Japanese style of fried chicken. Very nice. She's actually a big noodle fan, but ramen, especially the ones she tried, wasn't for her. But it is, the soup is a bit of a different taste. So yeah, she's a massive fan of edamame anyway, and I think she enjoyed actually being able to get some fresh stuff rather than just the frozen from the supermarkets. So yeah, quite a lot. The fruit she really enjoyed. She's big into a fruit and vegetables, which you don't hear many kids say. But it is a part of her staple diet, to be fair. But no, it was nice that she got stuck in, and even if she didn't like it, you know, tried again. And I'm sure she even tried miso soup. Actually, that was one that took me that took me a few years to get my head around that, of kind of persevering, trying it, really enjoy it now. But the first day we had it, they tend to, because they serve sushi at the place where it was, they chucked some shrimp heads in for a bit more flavour, which absolutely freaked her out, just gave it a slightly fishier taste to the broth, which she didn't like. But the next time we went back, they'd just done it with mushrooms, and she really enjoyed it. So yeah, hats off to her, and hopefully that helps your daughter out. 7-Eleven, what did she have from 7-Eleven? I don't know if we actually had anything to eat, so to speak, other than her obviously bullying me into buying sweets, and the drinks are always good fun. But as for actual food, I don't think we stopped there once. Evening, Ricky. Evening, all. Love the updates from Japan and seeing how you're both loving life. Next trip, whole family. I'm working on it. I keep telling the wife she's got to get over these flying phobia issues and shit she's got, because it's too stressful. But I think now she's seen how much both kids have loved it. She's bought into actually doing it. We've just got to get over that hurdle. Question on Kostya. I've treble dose with FMG. Wow, and they're still alive after 48 hours at 24 degrees. Wow, never. That's mental. Are you sure it's Kostya? You've not just got broken mucus cells which look similar. That's intense. What brand of FMG are you using? Because to be honest with you, some of them are just like fucking watered down piss. So that can make a big difference. You might want to get that bit right, or even changing treatment. You might want to flip to something like Alprex potentially. Just make sure it is absolutely dead. And have you actually got a fish that is potentially a host, a problematic fish, or something along them lines where that fish itself might be struggling? So have you done a broad spectrum of scrapes to make sure that the problem's not just isolated to one fish? Hi, I have metals in the water. I've seen, not a fan of RO detoxing. Any products in mind? No. So products for detoxification. If you've got a metals problem, you want to get what's in there binded and detoxified if you can. That makes sense. What I'm kind of against is using any products and chucking them in there all the time, when if there's an underlying problem, you need to solve the underlying problem. In that case, with metals, you need the treatment plant set up in place to treat the incoming water. Then at that point, once you've done something to bind the metals in the pond already, you move on from there. And obviously you're hopefully treating it at source from that point onwards, David. So that's my approach to that. It's a strategy I've used many a times for people, and it just saves then, you introducing them all the time with new water and having to then hit them while it's in the pond. That for me is not a process that I buy into. Hi, Ricky. I've heard it from a couple of sources that sometimes a filter can be too big, too much medium, the biofilm can't thicken up and mature. Is there any weight to this, or is it? I would say, I think in the past I've experienced and seen clients that I've thought this has potentially been a problem, but there's obviously other factors to it. And ultimately, Sam, it boils down to, are you having problems with your water? If so, what are the problems? Is it definitely that? Because realistically, it could be something more related to around KH, flow rates, things like that. So I think, Sam, to be honest, if we could give a bit more, what is the problem that you're having? I can maybe shed some light from there. Ricky, I'm contemplating removing my showers from my pond, not because I don't rate them. I'm a massive believer in them, but the electric bill since April has been horrendous, keeping it 24. Fair enough. If you think your pond can cope without them, take them off. For me, if that's a choice between knowing that the system performs well without the showers, but having the heat, I'll pick the heat every day of the week. So if that's what decisions you're having to make, Mark, go with it. But obviously then if you're massively affecting the biological performance of your pond, you might want to consider keeping them on and maybe keeping it a little bit cooler, say maybe 22 or something like that next summer. When discussing KH, the normal attention is when it's too low. Oh, volcanic high, not that I'm aware of. I've never seen it high enough that it's actually been harmful, so to speak. And I've seen ponds, especially like workshop area near us in past, absolutely mental, incredibly hard water. So no. But again, I'm no scientist, so someone who really knows that shit inside out might tell you different. But from my experience and what I've seen, the answer is no. Just coming out the other side of bacterial, saved 3 out of 9. Oh, sorry to hear it, but also I'm glad to know that you're getting on top of it. I am. Honestly to God, I try my hardest. Absolutely try my hardest. And I think what I would say is everything that I've ordered, bits you've seen me wearing, has now been, crikey, it's got to have been 4 or 5, maybe 6 months. I've had a chance to really see how they wash, wear, how the different prints and everything's performed. I know you might think I'm going over the top, but it's how I am. So it is actually on a very long job list. I did a brain dump recently and it frightened the life out of me, but it is on there. And I'd like to try and get something out over this winter period, to be honest. But let's see, no promises. Fish always have to come first, you see. This is the thing. Foggy, here we go. Last night's winner of my my Tancho show. Well done, Foggy, and thank you very much. You've been grinning, amazing, mate. It was amazing. Oh, here we go. Follow on comment. Grinning like a proud dad. Yeah, it's gonna be an epic journey, that one, mate. As with all the others. Hi, Ricky, thinking of changing my filtration, would change at the end of the season or the start of the new year. Yeah, I mean, if you're, it's going to depend on your water temperatures, really. I would say that if that's a tough one. Presuming you're keeping your biological filter active and mature and not doing anything to damage it, then any time, probably the winter period would be the best. But if it's a case where your filter's going to be knocked and you've not necessarily got, I know you've just said previously you've got the heat, because that's going to be a big factor in that as well. But you're not planning to keep that water too warm, then maybe spring as you're moving into summer might be the better time if you're going to be ramping the temperatures up a bit more. Yes, it was a very good battle going on for that one last night. Yeah, metals, again, you're right, Craig. I've had that, bone char does hit a broad spectrum of metals. It tends not to do very well with iron, which tends to be a bit of a base level problem. In the UK, we've seen that from testing that I've done with systems in various places now, to be honest, but it is working for a lot of the general nasty ones, the coppers and zincs and stuff like that. Hi, boss. In 4 weeks' time, having my 2K pond fibre lined due to a 6 leak. Have you any major tips for me to consider? Fibre lined? Are we just glass fibre lined? Not my bag, mate, Terence, to be honest. I don't. There's people out there, the guys in particular who do the fiberglassing, know far more than me about all that stuff. All my advice would be is make sure you get one of the good guys to do it, because fiberglassing done wrong is a nightmare. Can't wait to see the next selection of your fry. You must make sure Fujo is in attendance. Love his enthusiasm. Yeah, he's had a bit going on this last trip, to be honest. But I'll make sure we get him on camera the next time round. There we go. Sam's back. Thanks, Rick. It's not a problem of having my filter as a drum to move in bed with 600 plus litres of K1, but it's a newish pond and people have said to reduce the amount of media to help it mature. You've just lost me for words, Sam. Honestly, the fucking waffle people come out with at times just blow my mind. What will help that medium mature is cooking up your temperature of your pond and actually feeding it, putting it under some strain and some pressure. is what will help. All of that media will be. This is the thing, you know. The ultimate problem with filter capacity comes at the higher end of the scale. It's when you can't physically, you haven't got enough area to grow enough biofilm to cope with the high levels. But at the other end of it, all of that media will develop some biofilm on it. Will it be super thick? No, probably not. But that filter will just adjust to your current settings and environment once it's skipped through all the new pond syndrome phases, no matter how much media is in there. You know, the speed will be more affected by how much you're feeding. And even still, you know, any pond, even my ponds here, if I drop the feed by 50%, then a week later try to increase it by 50%, that water will go to shit for 2 to 3 days. It will be longer if the water's not warm, but when the water's warm, obviously it's the whole process is a hell of a lot quicker. So what you need to do is give it time, and if you can give it heat and just hit it harder, generally that's when you'll improve it and take it through all the gears. But even still, you will get the drop off if you reduce the feeding or reduce stocking, anything like that. You'll get drop off, and when that changes, you'll have to build it back up again. This is not a fix. Don't think once you've developed an amount of biofilm that's fixed and it's always there. You've got to keep that biofilm fed, and the biofilm will develop to the rate of food that it's got in general, you know, the bacteria levels and activity. So reducing the amount of media, just that's, yeah, madness. Thinking of building grow on, can a pump fed system match the performance of one with a bottom drain? Would be easier to pump fed as in a garage. Absolutely, Adam. You just got to bear in mind, obviously, I've heard people saying before, it grinds the shit down before, and yeah, it is. That's what mechanical filter's there for, to catch it, get a better mechanical filter. I seem to do it quite well. So, and there's what, 20, I can't remember. There's got to be best parts of nearly 30 ponds running pump fed with my towers with a bit of sponge and some pumice stone. I do all right with them. So, and now with the new system, I've got pump fed with a brush chamber there. It works fantastically well. So go for it, mate. Do what works best for you. You'll make it work well enough. Is a sieve enough pre-filter for a Nexus, or do I have to have a drum? No, and a sieve is more than enough. You know, a box with 12 brushes in would probably be ample enough. You don't have to have a drum at all. Nobody needs to have a drum. If you feel like it's a benefit to you, then great. Please don't be tricked into thinking they are maintenance free. They're not. They certainly need quite a bit of upkeep in general to keep them running well. So yeah, it'd be more than enough. Just bear in mind that in a setup there with a sieve, you generally, if you're looking to run them both gravity fed, you have to use a balance pipe to make that work, because generally from a sieve, if you run it gravity, you've got to pump feed out of it up to something there, which in a Nexus scenario, you'd have to go pump fed to your Nexus unless you do use the balance pipe system. Yes, Ray, absolutely. And the colonies are coming on great. The Zeb colony in particular, but they are just on bloodworm, but there's nothing else in the tank. So they've got the luxury of that. But in the others where it's very, very aggressive with other aggressive feeders, courgette's the only hope they've got, because they don't even get a chance to get to the mussels. But yeah, they're racking up. Me and Arthur was having a count up the other night. So, I mean, yeah, I'm great at getting things out of hand. I think we've got 10 of the L333s in one colony. We've got 10 Zebs in another, 9 super whites, which I'm looking to build up to 12. And then all the other individual ones scattered around already. Yeah, I've not got a problem, honestly. No, don't want a drum. Have 2 towers that are like yours and a skimmer also. There we go. And I agree with you on that front, Craig. Drums are bloody expensive, and when they go wrong, yes, exactly. And that's still, even if I was absolutely blown away with the whole drum thing, when I do see the price of them, it makes me cry inside. It really does, because I just think, unless you will really have got mega deep pockets to have anything you want, it's made about making choices. And for me, having seen the performance of other mechanical filters that can still be light on the maintenance, that money is going to be better spent going towards a heat pump or something along them lines, because the benefits of having something like that will far outweigh that of having the drum, let me tell you, long term. There we go. I've officially hit the bottom, ladies and gents. Just hand has dropped in there. So I'm going to make that for this week's episode. Thank you very much to everybody who's tuned in. We hit about 155 there at our peak, which is absolutely amazing. Pretty much the same week in, week out. I appreciate that support. So just one there, look, from Sam. I am doing no more after this. Top answers. Cheers, Ricky. I'll keep doing the heat, food, and lots of media. I love your mantra of keeping it simple. It served me very well. Glad to hear it. Just one there. Look, hit the like button. Yes, ladies and gents, please do. That's it. Until next week. Like I say, I'm going to get and do the prize draw in the morning, and yeah, please do join us for the auction on the WhatsApp group for the NND Sankey. First lot tomorrow. They're all going to be split over 2 because there's 10 of them. But yeah, some mega pieces. And regards to channel, let's say I feel like we're all in limp mode a little bit at the moment. It's certainly not moving at the rate I like it to. But I don't think it'll be long before full service is resumed on that one. So enjoy the rest of your evening, ladies and gents. And fingers crossed, all being well, I will see you all next week.